Hello, how's everybody doing? My name is Brico, and I'm with the Mighty Warrior Ministries. And today, I want to speak to the husbands, or I want to speak to men out there today. We're going to go over Ephesians chapter 5, verses 25. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 25. And I like this scripture because this is the scripture that is basically the foundation that I try to live my marriage on. And I think that this is a very good scripture for any person to try to, if you're trying to have a relationship with a woman and, or let's say with anybody, because a relationship is a relationship, whether it's with a coworker, whether it's with a spouse or something like that. So let's talk about all forms of relationships. But I'm talking to the men today about our relationships because I think that looking at this world today, we can see that there's a lot of broken homes. There's a lot of men not in homes. There's a lot of, I guess, there's a lot of abandonment going on when it comes to, I think, men being in homes. And I think that if maybe we can understand a scripture, this might help or encourage other men to stay where they're at so they can be encouraging and be that strong male spiritual figure in that home, be that priest, that good priest in the home. There was different kind of priests and different like things like that in the Bible. There were bad priests and there were good priests. We don't want the priest that, with the idols and all that stuff. We want the priest that is doing what they're supposed to do. And so when we read about a husband, which should be a high priest in his home, it says, "A husband, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her." Gave himself for her, right? The church. And so when we look at this, what I like to look at is the gave part. So I'm just going to go dive right off in. Is that when that he gave himself, or maybe he died or he sacrificed for her, right? So that when we look at this, let's just say inactive, right? So when we look at that word gave, I think inside of the Greek, it paints a picture in my head about a husband being handcuffed and being inactive, right? And so, are we man enough to become inactive, or do we have to be easily ignited? Do we have to easily respond? When it comes to being a husband, I think that when you give yourself over to somebody, when you become a servant because of somebody, that is a major thing. That means that that person is very special to you. And any relationship that you're in, you want to be submissive. You want to be able to listen. You don't want to be on center stage all the time. You want that other person to have center stage. And so when it comes to marriages, when a husband gives himself for her and becomes a slave and becomes inactive, then that allows the spiritual things that God is talking about, the spiritual things that as men that we want, but that we don't get because we are not being inactive. We're being very active. And us being very active is causing destruction inside the home. And that destruction is making the mother and the child maybe be unsafe because of this lack of being submissive. And I know that as men, and when we read the scripture, we think about the woman being submissive. But if the woman is supposed to be submissive and the woman represents the church and you're the head, unless you're submissive, she won't be. And that's just the dynamics, because if she's the church, or let's say if she is a student, and as a husband, you're supposed to be the teacher, what are you teaching in your home? Are you teaching abuse in your home? And I'm talking abuse on any level. What are you teaching to the students inside the home? And so if you are not submissive, then most likely the woman would not be submissive, because that's what you are teaching her. And so again, when we look at this, guys, trust me, if you study this right here and you get this down, the dynamics of your household will change. Even when it comes to kids, I know they're your children and you have to discipline, but be submissive, listen to them. See what's going on. Be available. The Lord, right? The Lord, right? The word Lord means available one. And if we're supposed to be as men in God's image, then that means that we need to be available. Available in all aspects of the word. Available and submissive. Ready to be a servant of the house. Ready to display love and kindness in the house. And if this is incorporated, I do believe that there'll be change, because the thing about God is that that's how God loved us. See, as men, if we are in a marriage, then hopefully, you have already had the big marriage, the marriage between you and God, when you two reunited and was back together. And then it will be easy to show love to the wife and be submissive, because you'll be doing the same thing that God did for you, for not striking you, for not destroying you, for not doing something bad to you, because all our lives could be taken at any moment. And so to be able to be a husband and to be married to a wife so that y'all can produce more children upon the earth, that is a very big blessing, and it's a very big responsibility. And I have talked about anger, and husbands, if you are not submissive and you have a lot of issues because you haven't uprooted everything and started over, and again, be up under the umbrella of the big marriage between you and your God, then there's going to be some issues. And that's why that's important, because if you haven't had that big marriage, then you won't understand how you was disobedient and how God many times tried to get your attention and we didn't respond, and we wind up getting in trouble anyway, and we cried out, or we wanted to not suffer the whole consequence, and we didn't, and we got away with it. And see, when you don't know that you have created the demise that you've been in, and God has been constantly trying to get your attention, then there won't be no humility in the relationship, because you got to know that you have checked the wrong answers sometimes, and a lot of times, and God has made them right. And so when you haven't had that encounter, then that means that forgiveness, right, for even hating God or being mad at God for some particular reason because something happened in your life, you won't even know how that breaks you down, because it was you and not him, and he was trying to save you and you was destroying you and other people. And even though through all that mess, he spoke something to you and woke you up and made you clean. See, when you have an encounter of being cleansed and being reunited to a God, a holy God, because of how filthy you were, and now that he has made you clean again, you're separated from that. There's a particular understanding of love that comes with an experience like that. And again, love has to be experienced. And if it's not experienced inside of the home, then as men, we have to experience it with God outside of the home. And when we have that experience, then we can extend that same type of experience to our wives and be humble like God was humble and be merciful like God was merciful and wait until you see the change, until you are awoken or aware. Wait until your wife is aware and then go forward. And so I just think that this was a nice subject to have. But again, men, we have to do better. We have to start protecting our women, protecting the children. We have to start being the men that God called us to be so that we can strengthen and be back reunited where all mankind can be reunited. And that's my hope. And so hopefully this reached a heart, and hopefully as a man you'll make a change. Thank you. I'll talk to you later. Talk to you soon.